check on my Hoover. Session's about to go live and
Where's the wrong event on there? Nope, he has the wrong event on there. That's fine. I'll write him and tell him. Check to see if there's a second one on there.
No.
It's okay.
Oh, I think it's, yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah, I think so. You wanna like wave a hand on the podium, like,
Yes.
just to check?
So walk up here.
Uh-huh. And come back down. You're not on the screen yet,
I
but
should be in a minute. There I am.
hopefully. Oh, yes you are.
Okay,
yes,
wonderful.
great. Yes. Oh wait, let me check the sound too, just to see. Okay. And we're now what?
Hi, everybody. I'm Craig. Thank you all for coming. We'll turn on the mic in a second. Oh, I'm live now. So, am I on live stream? Thank you, everybody who's watching on YouTube or through Whova. Whova! Who would have expected Whova to be so good? I did not expect that to be good. I expected it to be a fiasco. But it seems to be working well. How many of you haven't figured out how to use your Whova yet? So you might want to make sure you have Whova, because Saturday and Sunday, as you know, is our full online part of the conference, and everything will be on Whova there. So if you're here for in-person, but you're also doing a virtual session. Anyway, I'm Craig Svanken. I'm Executive Director of PAMLA. I want to welcome you all to our first semi-post, somewhat post, maybe we're getting close to post pandemic conference. And thank you for being the brave and the ones who are not immune compromised to come. And next year we're going to be at UCLA for a completely in-person conference. But now we have a kind of different kind of PAMLA, which is we're going to keep doing online events. So But anyway, thank you all for coming. I want to introduce really briefly our president, who's been our only president who's been president for 2 consecutive years, because it was so crazy during the pandemic that we thought, well, let's just not change the board right now. So Martin Kevorkian is our president, and he will be stepping down at the end of this year. He's been a pleasure to work with. He's a professor of English at University of Texas, Austin, and a longtime PAMLA member, and he'll be introducing our welcome event. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much, Craig, and thank you everyone for joining us for the opening event of PAMLA 2021. At the top, I want to thank the University of Nevada, Las Vegas for their generosity. In particular, the Department of World Languages and Cultures, chaired by Susan Byrne, the Department of History, chaired by Andrew Kirk, and the Department of Interdisciplinary Gender and Ethnic Studies, chaired by Ann Stevens. And extra thanks for the surpassing generosity of the UNLV Department of English and the spirit of helpfulness of their chair, Gary Totten. Thank you, Gary. Thanks also to UT Austin for some support for this event. Here are some key players who have really helped out. Megan Edwards, independent scholar, also from a whole slate from UNLV, John Bowers, Jorge Galindo, Ying Bao, Alicia Rico, John Hay, Oksana Marafioti, Roberta Sabbath, and Nanette Hilton. Also like to thank Emily Butler-Probst from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, Sonia Christensen, independent scholar, John Goshert, Utah Valley University, Richard Hishma, Palomar College, Jason Spangler, Riverside City College, Russell McDermott, University of Southern California, Kyung Ra, University of Southern California, doing photography right there, and Christian Rodriguez from LA Department of Recreation and Parks. Along with our host, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, the Pacific Ancient and Modern Language Association wishes to acknowledge and honor the indigenous communities of this region and recognize that our gathering is situated on the traditional homelands of the Nuwuvi Southern Paiute people. We offer gratitude for the land itself, for those who have stewarded it for generations, and for the opportunity to learn and be in community with this land. We encourage everyone in this space to engage and continue learning about the indigenous peoples who work and live in this land since time immemorial, including the Las Vegas Paiute tribe and the Wapa Band of Paiutes, and about the historical and present realities of colonialism. PAMLA believes it is important to recognize and appreciate the use of the Southern Paiute land as part of its commitment to be a welcoming and inclusive space for scholarly and creative community. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Jarrett King for the opening event, the Creative Artist Spotlight. He put this event together for us, and we thank him for organizing this amazing array of talent. Jarrett King is an assistant professor in the English department at UNLV, where he teaches American literature and the graphic novel. He's written books, travel guide, rock band biography, poetry collections, and edited short fiction anthologies such as Las Vegas Noir and Dead Neon, Tales of Near Future Las Vegas. For more than a decade, Keene was the contributing music editor at Vegas 7 magazine and a book critic for Tucson Weekly. Thank you, Jarrett, and welcome.
Yes, welcome to the welcome event, Creative Writers Spotlight, featuring a sampler, a mini breakfast buffet, if you will, of the rising literary stars in Las Vegas. If we can keep them and they don't run away to New York with a 3-book contract or to LA to work as a showrunner or writer to some Netflix special, it's unlikely Disney Plus will embrace this bunch, but I could be wrong. In any case, yes, I'm your MC, Jarrett Keene. I teach at UNLV. I've edited several books you might have heard of or even read 1 or 2 of them. Las Vegas Noir, which was a huge hit at Costco, and Dead Neon, Tales of Near Future Las Vegas, which Publishers Weekly hailed as being only mildly interesting and lacking marquee names like Neil Gaiman. Whatever. I'm over it, obviously. I'm also the series editor for Las Vegas Writes, sponsored by Nevada Humanities and published by Las Vegas-based Huntington Press. Each year, the project commissions a group of writers to each develop an original work surrounding a theme connected to Las Vegas. The 4 writers I'm introducing to you this morning have all made appearances in the Las Vegas Writes books, and if you enjoy what you hear, you can probably find the books at the book tables. Be sure to say hello to Mark with Imbrifex Books. Imbrifex, IMBRIFEX, is a Vegas-based publisher, and they do it all: print, audiobooks, fiction, memoirs, travel titles, available everywhere, online, bookstores, and probably Costco. Say hi to Mark. Before I introduce the writers, though, I want to say that it feels great to be back in the Sahara again. This is the hotel casino where I first learned to play blackjack, where I first puked up a NASCAR Cafe daiquiri after riding the speed roller coaster ride that was ran along the outside and through the guts of this building many years ago, and where I was first propositioned by gnarly Las Vegas sex workers. So yes, many heartwarming memories here, and it's an absolutely beautiful place with incredible restaurants, including Bizarre Meat by Jose Andres. I recommend the roast suckling pig if you're into that. And Andres, of course, does incredible philanthropic work through his charity, feeding thousands of people meals at the scenes of natural disasters. And there's also a great entertainment option called Magic Mike Live. My mother-in-law highly recommends it. So I'm happy to be here. Okay, so let's roll. It's time for the pretty words to happen. We're gonna start with really my marquee name, Nicholas Russell, a writer from Las Vegas. His writing has been featured recently in The Believer, Defector, Gawker, The Guardian, Reverse Shot, Mike, Columbia Journal, The Point, among other publications. He's a contributing prose editor at Burrow Press Review, and he sells books at the Writer's Block, which is our independent bookstore here in Las Vegas, downtown, a few blocks from my house. Love it there. You should check it out. Nicholas's most recent publication is the speculative fiction In the Wedding Hall, which appears in Love in the Dunes, a Las Vegas writers on romance and heartache. I expect great things from this writer. I give you Nicholas Russell.
Thank you, Jarrett. I'm going to be reading from the prologue to my novel. I put it in quotes because it's basically mostly an idea right now. It's called Observer. One day the sky opens for a brief moment as thick white clouds drift apart, and out comes a crow gliding on the breeze. It flies over leagues of barren land, once an ocean floor, now the desert. It focuses its gaze on a crevice in the distance, drawing closer until the crevice reveals itself to be a canyon. The landscape of the canyon mimics that of a forest, crowds of triangle treetops swaying in the breeze along the desert floor, scattering up the slopes of the mountain on either side. There's the cutting scent of pine hovering about. The mountain rises wide, rounding at the top like a hunched colossus. The ground below is rocky, shale and layered, pale yellow stacked upon pale red. Thousands of years of subterranean earth movement pressed into thin lines like streaks of chocolate. Sagebrush, dusty and gray, dots the face of the mountain and a natural flat plateau that juts out more than halfway up. From the outcropping on that first day, you watch the crow sail by, the flap of its wings cutting the air like a boomerang, and below, all that a desert can be expected to bring, starkness and rugged life. Later, the moon shines down on you, and the creatures whose eyes glow beneath it run into the night. On the second day, the crow perches on a boulder above the plateau. There are fewer trees on the canyon floor. It is natural to reason that some may have fallen over, weak foundations, dried and dead bases eaten away by insects or time. It is natural to reason that you have not fully paid attention to your surroundings. Still, as the sun travels across the sky, you notice that there are sections of trees seemingly pushed to the side, paths making way for something visible, created by something invisible. There on the plateau you stand and hear the wind in your ears. You hear the creaking of wood, tall trunks groaning, their branches scraping against one another, needles fresh and green. On the third day you wake early to the sound of a bird's beak against rock, fewer trees still. No one but you in these parts, and yet there is the sign of something enacting its will on the landscape. You notice pathways before, but those are gone. Now holes, pockets of emptiness between trees, and trails of strewn rocks following something that's been dragged. The wind grows stronger, shrill in your ears. You can no longer hear the creaking of wood, only the deafening absence of that which was once there, now gone. You look behind you from your perch. You wonder who else is out here with you, living in the shadow of the mountain, tearing down the verdure, making way the deathly and arid grasp of the desert beyond. On the fourth day, you find the canyon transformed entirely, and the crow is nowhere to be seen. Where before there was dense vegetation, now a nigh empty floor, deep pits of dirt that looked to have been hollowed out. The trees have gone, uprooted, patches like pockmarks all over the ground. The sagebrush remains, long slithering depressions in the dirt surrounding them. You look around the valley beyond the mountain, an expanse of flat white, a cloudless blue sky, and the striations of other mountain ranges far off on the horizon. There is still the scent of pine strong in the air. For a moment you hear the creaking of wood return. It is encased in the next gust of wind, but you see nothing, no trees to make that sound. You look up above you at the wall of the mountain. Clouds gather near its peak, bulbous, gray, and heavy with rain. You stand on the plateau and think yourself in an abandoned canyon. You do not look down, over the precipice, below the drop-off, at the crowd of tree-like things clinging to the sheer face of the cliff. You do not see their roots tangled together, stretching slowly towards you, branches angling, trunks bending, every movement agonizing, deliberate, fortified by the strength of slow-moving time. You do not see the sagebrush watch you, stubborn and motionless, unwitting, waiting for what you think has disappeared to catch up to you. You see as the trees do, which is nothing, only moved by sunlight, air, and dreams of water. Their tethers dig deep into the earth, beneath you, patient and unforgiving. If you do not leave this place, you will die, and for once, it will not be the desert that claims you. Thanks.
Yeah, I told you. What an ode to Las Vegas. Thank you, Nicholas. Up next, we have Oksana Marafioti. She's an award-winning American writer and activist of Armenian Roma descent. You may recall her memoir, American Gypsy, published in 2012 by FSG. She's published essays and stories in Time, Slate, The Rumpus, Pilgrimage, Story South, and several anthologies, including Immigrant Voices, published by Penguin in 2015. She's a former Library of Congress Literary Fellow and a Picador Professorship Award recipient at the University of Leipzig, Germany. It's my understanding that the sequel to American Gypsy is now in the works as we speak, and I am looking forward to reading it and to hearing Oksana read for us this morning.
Good morning, everyone. I did not forget my glasses. It's like the oldest story in the book, right? Where are my glasses? It's really great to see all of you here. I'm so happy about finally getting to do a conference in person. I mean, virtual thing is fun, and I'm saying hi to everyone who's watching it virtually, but there's something to say about meeting people and making connections face to face. So my printer did not print this morning, so I had to write everything old school on paper, which, to be honest, I haven't done in a while. I'm going to read 3 poems this morning. The first 2 are a pair. They go together wherever they go. And I wanted to give a little bit of a backstory because they're quite short, so I'm not gonna read for half an hour or anything like that. When the pandemic started and we went into lockdown, I'm sure most of us were affected in one way or another. And for me, I started having all of these kind of existential questions about my place, where do I belong, what am I supposed to learn from this? And as an educator, I think that's where my mind just drifts naturally. Where is the lesson in this? What am I supposed to get out of this? So the poems came about as a meditation on that. What am I supposed to learn from this? So the first two poems are called Instructions, and the first one has its own title, Idol Worship. Look closely at windows. They never show the same thing twice. Marks of achievement are in constant motion, but you are a window, not a firing squad. Remember when time happened, world black and cozy like a mother's womb? Birth is a yearning to repeat a moment cosmic. Life is forgetting. Through windows, you've memoried impressions you think will teach you to love better as you grow older. But no love is an idol. The idol is you. No one left to worship if you are it every time. The second poem is called River. Life is not unique, nor is it precious. It's messy and stoic and poetic in the end. We thrive in the moments of deep regard for how we feel about whatever transpires. But our experiences are monumental only to us, when to others they might be minuscule or pretentious or even insincere. Life is a system. It follows a predestined course, and you need to see it like you would a river. We can't be the fish and the fisherman. One thing at a time. When you feel, let it be yours alone, without judgment from others who, by the way, are fish too, just like you. Concern yourself with being a good swimmer. Enjoy the waters. Let the stream wash over you. And before I read the third poem, which is slightly different and I think a little happier, I wanted to ask a question. Does anyone know anything about the mating behavior of bald eagles? Somebody in the back. That's okay. I think we'll be okay if you participate. So what do you know?
Oh, they mate in the air and they fall while they're mating, and they have this incredible dance while they're doing the do, and it's really cool.
Did everyone hear that? They fall down and they mate while they're falling down. And I think from what I understand is that they don't finish mating, they just die. They have to do the deed before they hit the ground. So the third poem is from a collection of stories and poems based on animal behavior. Thank you, by the way. And the poem is called Kissing Feels Like This, and it's based on the eagle's behavior, mating behavior, but it also is a poem about what it feels like to kiss someone, even if you're not physically kissing them, with your entire being. So it's a love poem. As you have done with all the lovers in the past, you kiss him. But this one, you fall, pitched off some cloud head first. Fingers claw his skin, you grasp for balance, and he steadies you in flight, free falling in the air that rushes through your blood and steals breath from your lungs. Winded, you inhale each other, twining, twisting, until he leans his forehead against yours. This time, it's you who steadies him. Your plunge cannot be stopped mid-air, the air that billows and moans as you drop, weightless. This dance, this rush, a terrifying homecoming, to breathe in one another upside down, to embrace fearlessly, to cry out, see, I've got wings, I'll open for you. And that is it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Awesome, lovely. Thank you, Oksana. Up next, we have Nicole Minton, a writer and editor from California. Her recent paper, Gender Fluidity and the Unexplored Side of Hemingway, was presented at the Johns Hopkins Richard Maxey National Symposium in 2021 She's currently enrolled in an advanced MA track program in English at UNLV, with plans of pursuing a PhD in English. Oh God, I need to discuss that with her. Maybe I can save a life. I'm just joking. Why have I say that? Nicole's most recent publication is the story Sugar, which appears in Love in the Dunes, Las Vegas Writers on Romance and Heartache. When she isn't studying, she can be found playing music, planning road trips, and walking her dog. She's a promising writer, and I am so excited to introduce her to you now. And my goal is to confuse her and make her sign away 20% of her royalties from all the books she publishes in the future when I become her agent. I give you Nicole Minton.
Thank you. Keep my optimism at bay. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us bright and early. Maybe 9 a.m. doesn't feel early to you, but it certainly does to me. I'm really grateful to be part of the conference this year. This is my first time attending, and I'm so honored to be featured alongside some of these amazing creative writers who I really look up to here in the community. So I'm going to read an excerpt from my short story Jarrett just introduced that was in this year's Las Vegas Writes Anthology, Love in the Dunes, Las Vegas Writers on Passion and Heartache, which is also just shameless promo. Check it out if you haven't. I had the concept for this story years ago. I just wasn't mature enough to write it until quite recently. It is fiction, but in a lot of ways, the main character and the situation she ends up in are really realistic of what myself and countless other women encounter. In some ways, it's a cautionary tale about power, but mostly it's about female sexuality and the sort of transactional relationships we find ourselves in, especially living in a city like Vegas. I think there's this really sort of interesting ongoing debate over the commodification of women's sexualities and whether or not that can be empowering to them in any way. I mean, I don't have an answer, but I wrote the story about it, so I'm done stalling. This is an excerpt of my story, Sugar. The hardest part of finding a new sugar daddy is sorting through all the messages. This was exactly what Sophia found herself doing late Tuesday night, her mind not allowing rest until she found a potential match. Curiosity and insomnia overwhelmed her. Wearing an oversized men's t-shirt with a mug of chamomile in hand, she basked in the glow of her dying laptop, the bedroom's only source of light. It always amazed her how quickly the messages came. Just that morning, she'd created a burner email, fake number from WhatsApp, cutesy made-up name, and less than 12 hours later, she had 50 men wanting to meet her. No matter what the guy looked like or what career field he was in, every message sounded the same. Wow, you're very beautiful. I saw your profile and think we'd make a great match. I love helping students. What kind of arrangement are you looking for? They're always careful with their word choice, omitting anything bordering illegality. If they say rate, it means they're a cop, or worse, a scam. Against her better judgment, Sophia once met a guy despite his usage of the red flag word. She walked into the bar, saw his polyester suit and Velcro wallet, and immediately made a beeline towards the exit. Blocking his number on her way back to her little gray Honda, Sophia felt annoyed she had paid for parking for no reason. The real, experienced guys always use a specific vocabulary. It's always arrangement, gifts, PPM, and allowance. The last one threw Sophia off every time it was used. It made her feel like a kid saving for a toy. Regardless, her price went higher and higher each time the questions of gifts was asked. Once, a balding man in his late 60s gave her $500 just to have lunch with him a few miles outside the Las Vegas Strip. They ate Mexican food in near silence, the man offering little when she tried initiating conversation. He gave her a few hundred again the next day when they met for coffee, even after she revealed she didn't find him to be a good match. He nodded knowingly, like he'd expected Sophia to say it wouldn't work. He casually slid an envelope her way, gently cupped one of her ring-clad hands, and left without a word. She slipped one of many 20s into the tip jar on her way out, 2 full lattes abandoned on the table. More often than not, this is where meetings led. A rule Sophia had established for herself early on was that she wouldn't actually enter into a relationship unless she liked the guy. She may not have always been physically attracted to the men she met, but at least she would enjoy their company. Sophia had been in a handful of these relationships, the first when she was 19. She didn't know about the websites or the apps or arrangements just yet, and was wary of the men who approached her. Growing up in a city, she was taught to be cautious of other people and their motives. The first time an older man asked if she was interested in a, quote, mutually beneficial relationship was at a train station in LA on her way to her aunt's house. Mumbling a quick, no thanks, she ran fast in the other direction. But on the ride to Glendale, she wondered if she'd acted too hastily. After all, she was a woman of the 21st century, a pro-sex feminist. This was the year of Cardi B's rise, and a number of strip club anthems took over the radio. Everything from music to movies to social media told her that to be sexual is to be free. She worked with women who were in lengthy sugar relationships. Saw how the men truly loved her friends and often asked for very little besides companionship. One woman she knew got a guy to pay for her second degree, sending money for textbooks twice a year. All he wanted in return was someone to have dinner with once or twice a month when he was in town. The idea took hold of her. After all, living in Las Vegas meant men handing out business cards with promises of nude, willing women as you walked down the street. It was lights illuminating billboards of the most beautiful woman imaginable, barely covered, with a perfected look saying, "Yes, I've been waiting for you." Sophia'd be lying if she said it hadn't hardened her a little, seeing that to be successful was to be sexy, and at this point, she was neither. Plus, her bank account dwindled more and more each semester. Rice and top ramen were all that lined her cabinet, and she was only just starting her second year. Mulling this over during the brief trip in North LA, she decided she wouldn't be so quick to turn the next offer down when she returned home to Vegas. A month later, she was approached again. Working as a hostess at one of many Michelin-starred restaurants on the Strip, bumping into wealthy people was common. When a man, youngish and well-dressed, asked her for a kiss on the cheek as she sat at their party, she saw the chance. "Of course," she said with a glint of mischief in her smile, $50. Without hesitation, he offered her the cash from a full money clip he kept in his breast pocket. As the hours passed, she watched the men order course after course of delicacies. White truffle, oysters, Wagyu beef, and a bottle of scotch that cost half what she made in a year. The man who paid for a kiss noticed her watching and winked at her throughout the night. Around midnight, she clocked out, the man's number in the pocket of her long black coat. The arrangement was her first. She was naive, and he was relatively young himself, early 50s, handsome in that boyish American way, with hair just beginning to gray. They hadn't laid ground rules, and lines were blurred. He began getting overly jealous when she didn't respond to texts right away, and eventually, Sophia called it off. But it was worth it. She got a semester of school paid for, a La Creuset cookware set, and the knowledge of what to look for in the next one. If she was going to be part of the sugar lifestyle, she was going to do it right. She scoured the internet, found subreddits dedicated to sharing tips on marketing yourself for the match you wanted. And yes, she knew the millions of ways it could all go wrong. It was impossible to research sugar babies and avoid the articles documenting meetups gone sour, body parts of beautiful women found months later in the woods. These stories, she knew, were the exception. How else could thousands of happy members on these sites be explained? So she made a profile, careful to hide her face in the public photos, and she waited. After some careful observations, patterns began revealing themselves, and Sophia knew exactly what these men wanted in their girls. They liked the look of long hair, because the women to whom they pay alimony were the sleek, sharp, chin-length cuts of sophisticated grown women. Long hair is what girls boast. The men tuck it behind her ears like in the movies. These men liked full hips, slender legs, average heights. No tattoos, at least not visible ones, and no facial piercings. They liked soft, curious voices that say, "I'm smart, but never smarter than you." All they really want, she came to realize, was someone to play along with them, indulge their fantasies of escape. She nodded along expertly, adoration in her eyes as they explained their longing to escape through the desert on a motorcycle with a woman they love. She'd smile encouragingly, like it wasn't the same story every time. "Yes, you're very original. A Harley through the Red Rock? Moab? Mojave? I've never met a man like you." She did her homework for the role and played it perfectly. Her profile listed her attributes: 5'5", red hair, brown eyes, no tattoos, no piercings, no smoking or drug use. Her brand was the devoted student, working tirelessly through school where she was majoring in psychology. She wrote she was looking for a gentleman, sick of the boys around the university she attended. And that much was true. She was tired of the boys in her classes with their Snickers and snapbacks and endless sense of entitlement. That's what the men she met loved hearing the most. She described the many failed attempts at dating college boys, and the men from the sugar site would laugh. Those were boys. You need a man. They would assert, confident they held depths no one could ever know. Really, though, they weren't much different. The men Sophia met with lied and took shortcuts and blushed the same way 20-year-olds do. But she wasn't trying to build a life with these men. She was just sick of living off the bare minimum. And they were courteous in ways younger men weren't, chivalrous and old-fashioned in their commitment to her. The majority of the time, after a few months of dating, the men would ask her for a vanilla relationship, exclusivity and all. She politely declined, explaining she was always clear with her intentions, and that's usually when the relationship came to an end, and she was back on the site looking for a new arrangement. But this was all before David, the one who messed it all up. And it just gets depressing from there, so I'm gonna stop. Thank you.
Yes, Las Vegas's answer to Mary Gateskill, if anyone even remembers who that is anymore. Wonderful work. Thank you, Nicole. Okay. Heather Lang-Cassera, Clark County, Nevada Poet Laureate Emeritus, named Las Vegas's 2017 Best Local Writer by the readers of Nevada Public Radio's Desert Companion. Heather holds a MFA in poetry with a certificate in literary translation from Farley Dickinson University. She's a founder of and former editor she's current editor, at Tolson Books, and is currently the world literature editor with the Literary Review. She serves Nevada State College as a lecturer, teaching college success and creative writing, and as a faculty advisor for the literary magazine there, 300 Days of Sun. Heather's poetry chapbook, I Was the Girl with the Moon-Shaped Face, was published by Zeitgeist Press in 2018, and she published her full-length collection, Gathering Broken Light, in 2021 with Unsolicited Press. The writing of Gathering Broken Light was supported in part by a project grant for artists from the Nevada Arts Council. I wrote up the book for a national all-weekly publication and described Gathering Broken Light as a book that unflinchingly addresses the violence that corrodes the American soul and possesses a nature-infused sentiment unlike anything in poetry at the moment. And when I wrote that, I meant that, Heather. It's an incredible book. Hopefully you'll read from it now, Gathering Broken Light. So let me introduce you to Heather Lang-Cassera.
How's everyone doing this morning? It is wonderful to see so many of you here, especially at 9 a.m., which is also for me very early. I'm with you. I do my best writing very late at night and kind of just have to go with that when I can. So I'm going to be reading from Gathering Broken Light, and it is written in memory and in honor of the victims and survivors of 1 October, the 2017 Route 91 Harvest Festival shooting. All royalties for this book are going to the Vegas Strong Resiliency Center to support survivors. It's important for me to share that. So I'm hoping that you might share with me just a moment of silence to remember those who were lost on that terrible night. Thank you. I'm grateful to each of you. So thank you to PAMLA for putting together this phenomenal conference. It feels so good to be here in person. Thank you to Jarrett Keene, Dr. Jarrett Keene, for inviting me to join this panel. And then also, I know I saw Craig earlier. I guess I'll give him a shout out later, but he's been just an incredible curator and host, even virtually so far. So about the poems that I will be reading today. The Alphabet of Grief poems are abecedarians of sorts that do not arrive at the letter Z, and that is an intentional reflection of both untimely loss and of a community's need for language, as well as language's limitations to represent trauma. Some of the poems, such as The Abandoned Napkin is a Collapsed Cloud, are ekphrastic pieces written after David Becker's photographs of the concert grounds for Getty Images News. And many of the poems are anchored in our beloved Mojave Desert landscape, the severity and the beauty of which mirror grief's incredible sorrow, yet deep, deep love. And so as a side note, if you are not from this area and you are looking for something to do that is not necessarily on the Strip, I highly recommend getting out and doing some hiking. The landscape outside of the city is just breathtaking. It's some of the most gorgeous landscape in the world, I believe. So, the tension above the water glass foreshadows the moon just this once. The morning dove brushes the sill like a finger on a trigger. The prickly pear flickers silent in the late heat, with flame-like petals, snapshots of a moment, supergiant stars, as the sky has fallen and settles to the coral red floor of our still raw earth. Some things are meant to be seen, not touched, never heard. And so we wait, confronting pasts we cannot understand, futures that can only be wrongly predicted. Nopales wave us forward, gestures of kindness when least expected. Juxtaposed against the mountains torn against deep blue and those that came before. Even this desert was once an ocean. In an alphabet of grief, arching bonfires carried destruction, each feather gasped, hills inverted. Just knowing love made night open, pushing quiet resolutions, stars tasted, unfractured. The Abandoned Napkin is a collapsed cloud after David Becker's photographs reported shooting at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. The abandoned napkin is a collapsed cloud, which is to say we leave it behind. The sky has fallen and we cannot take it with us. The night exhaled, its lungs sunk into absence. Misshapen rooms light cannot enter. What might we wet with mothers' tongues to clean the paper-thin skin of messy babes' mouths? Will ring fingers capture tears, trace faces? Who in the Mojave has not caught drops of rainwater on the beds that live beneath the roofs of our mouths? Empty chambers which hold our breaths. The abandoned napkin is a collapsed cloud, a prayer that we can see until it isn't, a thought we hope to decipher before snuffed out. A small breath billows before it fades. Beaks of birds emerge from crumpled paper, concrete nouns shimmering against what we might pretend to see as a winter landscape, a failed anticipation of something new. Through proximity, what else have we forgotten? We wait the shape of this small home with roof more gentle than steeple, tugging us toward the ground, asking us about the last time that we felt something truly. I walk toward the hills and cannot remember your name. You warned me in the night I would forget the deepest angles, the sleep-swept octaves of your voice. What else have I capsized? I dog-ear pages to temper swollen verbs, phrases posing without shadow, moving forward without doubt. Our shared words now lifted like pollen skyward, becoming the stars. You deserve to be remembered. How can I keep hope-drenched moments between curled hands? In this moonlight, a pause, a perspective. We become something better and something less. This grief returning again and again. The aluminum can is a failing telescope, which is to say we cannot go back. We see even Mars as it was 12 minutes ago, another red-rocked place where we have gone in search of water. There are so many metaphors for ocean and for loss. The city lights whisper washes, disguise the sky, slip man-made canopies over us, pretending to shelter us. The aluminum can is a failed telescope, one never tilted up and into this late night sky. The desert tortoise makes her way, not as if she could move mountains. She is the buttes and the saddlebacks, and is too perfect to be a fixed part of this dust-splashed earth. She swishes sand, leaving wing-shaped tracks, and on her back carries a detailed topographic map. The delicate lines, contours of relief, or manifestations of the gaps we fill with silence and other absent declarations. Together we hear the hearty hissing and the guttural grunts warning us to keep our distance. We thought the tortoise was a snake, but we learn, even our palms, such unquiet basins can ache. We drive east just far enough to be one time zone farther. We stop for fuel and wade through some sort of white light. We paw at cans of Campbell's soup, a water gun, a box of Tylenol, and a superhero Kleenex box. We become today's postmodern desert outlaws, a strange vying I would never wish on anyone. We are silently drowning one moment at a time, and it is always to that same goddamn That's Not Love song, which leaves us wondering what is set to repeat. But oh honey, yes, there is water still here in the Mojave. You tell me about the excitement of igniting a tumbleweed, and I think of a cage turned outward, protecting empty space within it. I contemplate what we should do in a controlled environment only, or not at all. Bring me all of your worst ideas. What I mean is, let's roll them all across this once ocean floor, beneath the clouded ripples of our sealess sky, and away. At night, the desert dusts itself off, and century plants continue to bloom, slowly, like stars burn. How can we learn to abandon what has already left us? We keep secrets so well, while the desert heat sinks, unknowingly, through us. Your hand, a basin lifted up from this earth, brought skyward and emptied of rivers, of pond, of gravity. For this, a quiet kind of love. Promise me you will go on. Feel the percussion of tears, the moon as emptiness traced, and brimming with promise, because both can be true. With dreams being antlers we shed, with whims outside of our control. With the fox's tufts of hair being silky pairs of beds, within hungry, prayer-like ears, distant and open for broken ideas, once gorgeous. Thank you so much for listening.
Wow, right? We hit all the bases on that one. Thank you so much, Nicholas, Nicole, Oksana, Heather. And thank you so much for attending the Creative Writer Spotlight. Thank you to the PAMLA organizers, to Craig, to Martin, to all of you. I really hope you enjoy your time here at the conference and in Las Vegas. I mean, what a terrific opportunity to learn, to share ideas, have fun, and, you know, indulge a little bit. And I sincerely look forward to seeing you all throughout the coming days. Heather and I, what's it? I'm chairing a lot of sessions. We've got one tomorrow, folklore and mythology. It's gonna rock. We've got papers on Jodorowsky and She-Ra, Princess of Power. It's gonna be amazing. I'm really excited. And what else should I tell you? Yeah, I'll be here all the time. I live just like a block. You can throw a beer bottle from this place to my house, so unfortunately, and Heather and I will be here. Or roaming, looking for coffee. No, we're going to be seeing and enjoying your panels. It'll be awesome. Thank you so much, Greg.
Thank you so much, Jared. This was amazing, and I want to thank again our poets, Oksana Marafioti. I'm going to mess up your name, sorry, Oksana. Oksana's book, I just got it, and it is amazing. I only had time because I was up all night for like 6 weeks now, but it is amazing. And Nicole Minton, that was really I want to read the whole piece. And Nicholas, I don't know if Nicholas is still here, but Nicholas, just terrific. And Heather Lang-Cassera. So it's just a terrific, I liked it so much because we've done these before, and this was just such a kind of a feeling for Las Vegas creative writers. And it's got, Las Vegas has such a vibrant creative writing and writing community. And I did want to mention, I know you all want to go to your next session, but a couple of things. One is we have these amazing, I feel weird saying one thing because you don't want to pick one session over others, and just so many great sessions. But at session 307, and there's going to be another one tomorrow, we have Las Vegas Subverting the Myth. And this is put together by Megan Edwards. Is Megan here? Oh, there you are, Megan's here. And Megan got this just fantastic group of Las Vegas cognoscenti, creative writers, museum directors, just if you really want to learn about Las Vegas, I'd say that. There's also another Las Vegas, where's Ellen Finkelpearl? Ellen, yours is all about, my brain is so bad that I'm gonna blank out, but the famous book, Learning from Las Vegas. So we have, and if you look through the session, if you look on Whova and look at these things, there's just some great things. The Subverting the Myth is here. I don't remember what room Learning from Las Vegas is. Then we also have, last year we had, 2 years ago we had a t-shirt that was designed by this really amazing comic book artist, Frank Quietly. Is Frank here yet? Okay, and Frank is gonna be doing a session in, let's see, where is it? In session 4, Cities and Simulacra, Interactive Comics Destruction. He did this, if you were here, how many of you were there in 2019 for the PAMLA Conference? Just raise your hand. So remember the clown design? That was Frank's design. And he does Superman comics and stuff. So if you can come to that, I think he's gonna be drawing. But there's just, if you just look through the schedule, it's gonna be hard for you to decide what to go to. Here's where I say the thing about karma, which I put in my emails, but my emails are so insanely long. You probably didn't even read Russell says he doesn't read more than 2 sentences. So, and he's my former student and I love him. So, what can you do? And Jim tells me the same thing. Jim Aubrey, my colleague, says, what do you do? Like, you're trying to overwhelm us with your just verbiage? And I say, yes, that's what I'm trying to do. And, but if you could try to look at the sessions and if you were planning on going to one session, come to two. If you're planning on going to two sessions, come to three. It's karma, but it's actually just structural design. If you go to more sessions, people will come to yours. And that's where the conference becomes exciting, even if we have a smaller in-person footprint this year, because of a lot of the sessions are on Saturday and Sunday. Come to those too. By the way, we have a cyber mentalist as our welcome virtual event, Colin Cloud, who was performed on America's Got Talent, I think. The guy is amazing. He calls himself the real life Sherlock Holmes. We got to meet him 11 o'clock he performs over at the Mirage. So we have him for everybody who's in Las Vegas. I'm in love with the guy. The guy, I want to like, he has a wife, but I want to like hug him when I met him. He's Scottish, and the guy is just so funny and interesting. 11 o'clock Pacific time on Saturday morning. And our forum is on Sunday virtually. So even if you're here in person, please go to the virtual stuff. 10 o'clock is our next session. Oh, and one final selling, marketing, upscale. Tonight here, 5:15, please come, because our president, Martin Kevorkian, is going to be giving a hell of a presidential address. It's going to be a doozy. The guy is a Renaissance man, I just have to say. I'm a dum-dum, but he's brilliant. That's okay, I could be a dum-dum, that's all right. I have accepted it, and I'm at peace with it. But Martin, 5:15, is that right, Martin? And then after that, we all go downstairs. I've ordered enough food for 300 people, my friends. So don't go straight to dinner. Come and have we have carving stations, we have past hors d'oeuvres. We just can't afford the drinks. You're gonna have to buy each other drinks. But all the food you probably can eat. Bring your significant others, wear your name tag, it'll make checking you in easier. And what was the password again, if you forgot the secret code? Dr. Pampy password, okay? So that's gonna be right at 6:30, right after the presidential address. Yeah, Dr. Pampy, there's no rubber duck that drops down when you say it, but. All right, any questions? I'm here. And go to your sessions, go forth and share your knowledge with each other. Thank you all for being here. I'm gonna wave to the streaming people. Thank you so much to Russell and Ray and everybody who put together the streaming. David, our assistant director, David Boyd. Thank you, David. David's in France. And thank you guys again. That was fantastic. You guys are welcome next year, UCLA. I want you to keep coming, okay? Please. And we'll just keep growing our creative writing elements in PAMLA.